Min-jae's car screamed through Seoul's empty streets at 3 in the morning, red lights meaning nothing, traffic laws abandoned. In the passenger seat, Kim gripped the door handle while coordinating strike teams through rapid-fire phone calls. Behind them, 2 SUVs filled with armed men followed in tight formation. 3 years. 3 years of watching his children grow through grainy surveillance footage. 3 years of birthday parties he couldn't attend, scraped knees he couldn't kiss better, nightmares he couldn't chase away. 3 years of being married to a woman he despised while the woman he loved raised his children alone. And now the Huang family had crossed the line he'd drawn in blood. If you've been following this family's journey from the beginning, smash that subscribe button right now because this finale will leave you absolutely shattered. Everything comes to a head in the next 40 minutes, and you won't believe how the story ends. The phone call from Kai had come 20 minutes ago, his 6-year-old son's voice trembling but controlled. "Daddy, they took Mommy. Mia ran away. I'm hiding." Those words had shattered the careful control Min-jae had maintained for 3 years. The empire he'd rebuilt, the power he'd reclaimed, the reputation he'd restored, none of it mattered compared to the terror in his son's voice. Kim ended another call. "We've located Mia. She's at the medical clinic 2 blocks from the kidnapping site. A nurse found her hiding in a supply closet. She won't speak, won't let anyone touch her, but she's physically unharmed. Get her to the secure facility. Full medical team standing by. I want Dr. Han personally overseeing her care." Min-jae's voice was ice over volcanic rage. "And find out how they got past our security. Already confirmed. Inside job." One of the guards at the clinic was on Huang's payroll. He disabled the panic button system 30 seconds before the attack. His family, wife, 2 daughters, elderly mother. Protect them. They're not responsible for his choices. But him. Min-jae's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Save him for me." The car took a corner at speeds that defied physics, tires screaming against pavement. Min-jae's mind raced through tactical scenarios, calculating entry points, defensive positions, hostage variables. But underneath the cold strategy, a father's terror threatened to break through. Zara was in their hands. His Zara, who'd survived 3 years of single motherhood, who'd kept his children safe and loved despite everything. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered on speaker. Min-jae. The voice was female, controlled, familiar. His wife. The woman who'd conspired to put him in this cage 3 years ago. "What do you want, Yuna?" "To help you." Kim's head snapped toward the phone. Min-jae's expression remained carved from stone. "I know where they're keeping Zara," Yuna continued. "The old fish processing warehouse in Incheon. Pier 17. The Huang family has been using it as a secondary location for 6 months. I can get you building schematics, guard rotations, everything. Why would you help me?" Silence stretched for 3 heartbeats. When Yuna spoke again, her voice carried something Min-jae had never heard from her before. Genuine emotion. "Because 3 years ago, I thought I could make you love me if I removed her from the equation. I thought if she disappeared, you'd eventually forget. I was wrong about everything. You never stopped loving her. You never will. And I've spent 3 years married to a ghost of a man, watching you die slowly from the inside." She paused. "I don't want her blood on my hands, Min-jae. I already have too much to answer for. This doesn't absolve you. I know. Nothing ever will. But maybe it's a start." The sound of typing came through the phone. "I'm sending you everything now. You have 2 hours before they move her. After that, she disappears into the network, and even I won't be able to track her." The line went dead. Kim's phone chimed with incoming files. He opened them, his scarred face growing grim. "Boss, this is detailed. Building layout, security positions, even the make and model of their surveillance system. Either it's a trap or she's genuinely helping. Assume both. Plan for betrayal, but use the intelligence." Min-jae's voice dropped to something dangerous. "If this is a trap, I want Yuna's family holdings liquidated by dawn. Every business, every property, every asset. And then I want her father to know exactly why his empire fell." Across the city, in the fish processing warehouse that reeked of brine and decay, Zara sat bound to a metal chair. Her wrists burned from zip ties cutting into swollen flesh. Blood had dried on her temple where someone had struck her during the kidnapping. But her eyes remained alert, tracking every movement, cataloging every face, looking for any opportunity to escape. She'd been terrified during the initial attack. Had fought like a cornered animal when they grabbed her outside the clinic. Had screamed for Mia to run, for Kai to hide, using the last seconds before someone hit her hard enough to blur her vision. Then the van, the rough hands, the drive that lasted forever and no time at all. Now, hours later, fear had crystallized into something colder. Rage. These men had terrorized her children. Had ripped apart the fragile piece she'd built over 3 years. Had dared to touch her family. And Min-jae was coming. She knew it with bone-deep certainty. He was coming, and these men had no idea what they'd unleashed. The warehouse door opened. An elderly man entered, his grandfather appearance at odds with the cold calculation in his eyes. Behind him walked 6 men in expensive suits carrying guns like accessories. "Miss Zara," the old man said in accented English. "I am Huang De-young. You've caused my family considerable trouble." "Good," she said flatly. He smiled without warmth. Still defiant. "That's admirable. Min-jae always did prefer strong women. But strength won't save you tonight. You're bait. Nothing more. When he arrives to rescue you, we'll kill him in front of you. Then we'll kill you." Clean, efficient, poetic. You really think it'll be that easy? I think your lover has grown soft. 3 years of pretending to be a civilized businessman have dulled his edges. He'll come in reckless, desperate to save you. He'll make mistakes. And we'll capitalize on them. The old man pulled up a chair, sitting backward on it. "You should have stayed in America, Miss Zara. Should have kept those children far from our world." "I tried. Your people found us anyway. Because Min-jae never stopped looking. Never stopped having you monitored. Did you know that? Even after he married my partner's daughter, even after he swore to leave you alone, he had eyes on you constantly. Birthdays, school plays, doctor's appointments. He watched it all from a distance like a ghost haunting his own life." The words hit harder than the blow to her head had. Zara had suspected, had sometimes felt watched, but hearing it confirmed stirred something complicated in her chest. "He loves you," Huang continued. "That's his weakness. That's what makes tonight possible. Love makes men predictable. Makes them stupid. And stupid men die easily." "You're wrong about one thing," Zara said quietly. "What's that?" "Love doesn't make him weak. It makes him absolutely terrifying." Footsteps approached from deeper in the warehouse. Zara tensed, expecting another interrogation, another threat. Instead, a woman emerged from the shadows. Tall, elegant, wearing designer clothes that seemed absurd in this grimy space. Min-jae's wife. Yuna stopped a few feet away, her perfect face unreadable. She studied Zara with the intensity of someone examining a rival, a threat, a puzzle she couldn't solve. "Leave us," Yuna said to Huang. The old man frowned. "Miss Choi, I don't think." "I said leave us." Her voice carried the steel of someone used to being obeyed. 5 minutes. That's all I need." Huang stood slowly, gesturing for his men to follow. 5 minutes. Then we proceed as planned. He walked away, leaving the 2 women alone in the dim warehouse. Silence stretched between them. Zara refused to look away, refused to show weakness to this woman who'd conspired to separate her from Min-jae 3 years ago. Yuna circled slowly, her heels clicking against concrete. "You're not what I expected." "What did you expect?" "Someone softer. More naive. Someone who couldn't possibly understand Min-jae's world." She stopped directly in front of Zara. "But you're stronger than I gave you credit for. You survived 3 years alone, raised his children, built a life from nothing. That takes courage I didn't think you possessed. Is this supposed to be a compliment before you kill me?" "I'm not going to kill you." Yuna's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "I'm going to help you." Zara's eyes narrowed. "Why would you do that?" "Because 3 years ago, I made choices based on jealousy and wounded pride. I thought if I removed you from Min-jae's life, he'd eventually love me. I thought I could make him forget you existed." She laughed bitterly. "I was spectacularly wrong. He married me, shared my bed, played the dutiful husband at social functions. but he never stopped being yours. Every night, he'd stand on our balcony staring at nothing, and I knew he was thinking about you. About the children he couldn't see. About the life he sacrificed to keep you all safe. So this is guilt? This is me realizing that I destroyed 4 lives, including my own, chasing something that was never meant to be mine. Yuna pulled something from her purse. A small knife. She moved behind Zara and began cutting the zip ties. I called Min-jae. Gave him the location, the building specs, everything he needs to get you out. He'll be here soon. The ties fell away. Zara's hands came free, blood rushing painfully back into numb fingers. She stood slowly, her legs unsteady, but she stayed upright through sheer will. The guards won't stop you if you leave through the east exit, Yuna continued. There's a service door that leads to an alley. Take it. Run. Don't wait for Min-jae. Just get somewhere safe and let him handle the rest. Zara rubbed her wrists, studying this woman who'd been her invisible enemy for 3 years. What happens to you when they find out you helped me? I imagine Huang will be displeased. That's not an answer. Yuna's smile was sad and somehow beautiful. My father has enough power to shield me from most consequences. And honestly, I deserve whatever punishment comes. I've earned it through my own cruelty. Why tell me all this? Why help? Because you don't deserve this. Your children don't deserve this. Yuna's voice cracked slightly. And because Min-jae deserves a chance at happiness, even if it's not with me. I can't give him that, but I can at least stop being the reason he doesn't have it. Footsteps approached. Multiple sets. Yuna's eyes widened. They're coming back early. You need to go now. What about Kai? He's still hiding somewhere in this building. I'll find him. I'll keep him safe. But you need to run, Zara. Now. Before. The warehouse door burst open. Huang Daejung entered with a dozen men, his grandfather face transformed into something cold and furious. Miss Choi, he said softly. What are you doing? Yuna stepped between Huang and Zara, her spine straight despite the obvious danger. Something I should have done 3 years ago. Choosing conscience over conspiracy. You've made a very unfortunate decision. Huang gestured, and his men spread out, surrounding both women. Your father will be disappointed to learn his daughter is a traitor. My father will understand that I'm correcting a mistake. Yuna's voice remained steady. And if he doesn't, then I'll accept those consequences too. Zara's mind raced. The east exit was blocked now. At least 8 men with guns stood between her and freedom. Her hands were free but useless against professional killers. She needed a distraction, a miracle, something. She got Min-jae instead. The north wall exploded. Not figuratively. Actually exploded. A shaped charge blew through the corrugated metal, sending a shower of sparks and debris across the warehouse floor. Smoke billowed through the opening, and through that smoke came men moving with military precision. Min-jae entered first, gun raised, eyes scanning for threats with predatory focus. He spotted Zara immediately, their gazes locking across 40 feet of chaos. Something passed between them in that instant, 3 years of separation collapsing into one moment of absolute recognition. Then the shooting started. Huang's men reacted instantly, weapons coming up, muzzle flashes lighting the dim warehouse. Min-jae's team returned fire with coordinated precision, each shot calculated, each movement purposeful. It was beautiful and terrible, a ballet of violence choreographed by men who'd spent lifetimes perfecting the art of killing. Yuna grabbed Zara's arm. Get down. They dropped behind a stack of crates as bullets chewed through metal and wood. Zara's heart hammered against her ribs, adrenaline flooding her system. She'd seen violence before, had witnessed the aftermath of Min-jae's world, but never like this. Never this close, this immediate, this overwhelming. Kai! Zara shouted over the gunfire. My son is in here somewhere. Yuna's eyes widened. He's here? In the building. He called his father from a hiding spot. A place with fish. I thought he meant this warehouse. The processing floor. Downstairs. Yuna pointed toward a stairwell entrance. If he's hiding near fish, that's where he'd be. But we can't get there without crossing the fire zone. Zara looked at the chaos between them and that stairwell. Men fighting, dying, bullets flying everywhere. Crossing that space was suicide. But Kai was down there, alone and terrified, and she'd already left him once today. She wasn't doing it again. "I'm going," Zara said. "That's insane. That's motherhood." Zara took a deep breath, gathering courage she didn't know she possessed. "Cover me or don't. But I'm getting my son." She ran, sprinted across open space while bullets carved the air around her. Someone shouted her name, Min-jae's voice raw with fear and fury. She didn't stop, didn't look back, just kept her eyes on that stairwell entrance, on Kai, on the promise she'd made to protect her children no matter what. A hand grabbed her arm, yanking her sideways. She stumbled, nearly fell, then realized Kim had intercepted her, his scarred face set in grim determination. "Boss wants you in the safe extraction vehicle," he said. "My son is downstairs." Kim's expression shifted, understanding replacing protocol. "Where?" "Processing floor. Hiding near fish." He nodded once, then spoke into his radio. "Team 2, priority target is a 6-year-old boy, processing floor, possibly hiding in cold storage or near fish processing equipment. Locate and extract with extreme prejudice for his safety." "I'm going with them," Zara said. "Ma'am, that's not a request." Kim studied her for 1 second, then made a decision. "Stay behind me. Do exactly what I say. If I tell you to run, you run." "Understood. Understood." They moved toward the stairwell as the firefight raged around them. Zara caught one glimpse of Min-jae before they descended, saw him fighting with the controlled fury of a man who'd forgotten how to fear death because he'd already lost everything that mattered. Their eyes met one last time across the chaos. Then she was following Kim down metal stairs into darkness, toward her son, toward the next nightmare in a night that seemed endless. Above them, Min-jae systematically eliminated threats with surgical precision. Each shot found its target. Each movement brought him closer to Huang Daejung, the man who dared threaten his family. The old man had retreated to the warehouse's far end, protected by his remaining guards. Min-jae advanced through smoke and scattered crates, his team flanking in perfect coordination. 3 years of playing businessman hadn't dulled his edges at all. If anything, the forced restraint had sharpened them into something more dangerous. "Min-jae," Huang called out. "It's over. Your woman is gone, probably dead. Your son is lost in this building. How many more bodies need to fall tonight?" "All of them," Min-jae replied. "Every single person who thought they could touch my family and live." He rounded a corner, gun raised, and found Huang waiting with a weapon pointed directly at him. The old man's hand was steady, his expression calm. "I've been doing this longer than you've been alive, boy. You think you're the first young lion to challenge me? I've buried dozens just like you. Then you'll have plenty of company in hell." Min-jae fired. The bullet caught Huang in the shoulder, spinning him sideways. His gun clattered across concrete. Min-jae advanced, weapon trained on the old man who'd orchestrated so much pain. 3 years of forced compliance, 3 years of watching his children grow through screens, 3 years of sleeping next to a woman he despised while the woman he loved raised his family alone. All of it traced back to this man. "Wait," Huang gasped, clutching his bleeding shoulder. "We can negotiate. I have resources, connections. I can give you everything." "You already took everything." Min-jae's finger tightened on the trigger. "Boss." Kim's voice crackled through the radio. "We have a situation downstairs." Min-jae hesitated, the moment stretching. Huang saw the opening and lunged for his fallen weapon. Min-jae fired twice more, center mass, ending the threat permanently. The old man collapsed, his eyes going vacant, his final expression one of genuine surprise that someone had finally been faster. Min-jae turned and ran for the stairs, leaving his team to secure the remaining hostiles. Kim's voice had carried an edge of urgency that meant only one thing. Kai. Something was wrong with Kai. The processing floor below was a maze of industrial equipment, metal tables, and cold storage units. The smell was overwhelming, rotting fish and brine mixed with mildew. Dim emergency lights provided barely enough illumination to navigate. Min-jae moved through the space with practiced efficiency, following the sound of voices toward the back corner. He found them huddled near a massive freezer unit. Zara knelt on the concrete floor, her arms wrapped around Kai's small body. The boy was crying, great heaving sobs that shook his entire frame. Kim stood guard a few feet away, his weapon trained on the surrounding darkness. "Kai," Min-jae said softly. His son's head snapped up. For 3 years, Min-jae had watched this child through surveillance feeds, had seen him grow from toddler to little boy, had memorized every feature from a distance. But nothing prepared him for the impact of seeing Kai in person, of watching recognition bloom in those eyes that were so much like his own. "Daddy?" Kai's voice was small, uncertain. "Is it really you?" Min-jae holstered his weapon and dropped to his knees, opening his arms. Kai pulled away from Zara and launched himself at his father, small arms wrapping around Min-jae's neck with desperate strength. The boy smelled like fear and fish and innocence, and Min-jae held him like he'd never let go. "I'm here," Min-jae whispered against his son's hair. "I'm here, and I'm not leaving again. Never again." "You promised you'd come back when the monsters were gone," Kai sobbed. "Are they gone now? Can we be a family?" Min-jae looked over his son's head at Zara. She sat on the cold concrete, her face streaked with tears, her clothes torn and bloodied, but alive. So beautifully, miraculously alive. Their eyes met, and 3 years of separation seemed to collapse into nothing. "Yes," Min-jae said, the word coming out rough with emotion. "The monsters are gone. We can be a family." Footsteps echoed from the stairwell. Min-jae's hand moved toward his weapon, but Kim shook his head. "Friendly." Yuna emerged from the shadows, her designer dress stained with dust and grime. She stopped when she saw the family reunion, something complicated crossing her perfect features. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Finally, Zara stood. She walked toward Yuna slowly, each step measured. Min-jae tensed, ready to intervene if needed, but Zara's expression wasn't angry. It was something else entirely. "Thank you," Zara said quietly. "For cutting me loose. For helping. For calling Min-jae." Yuna's composure finally cracked. Tears spilled down her cheeks, ruining her makeup. "I'm so sorry. For everything. For the past 3 years, for separating your family, for being so consumed by jealousy that I couldn't see what I was destroying." "I know." Zara reached out and took Yuna's hand. "I understand why you did it. I don't agree with it, and I'll probably never fully forgive it, but I understand. You loved him." "I thought I did," Yuna said. "But real love doesn't destroy. It doesn't manipulate or separate or hurt. Real love sacrifices." She looked at Min-jae, who still held Kai close. "You were right to choose her. You were always right. I just couldn't see it through my own pride." "What happens now?" Min-jae asked. "To you, I mean. When your father finds out what you did, I'll handle my father. He's not as invested in the Huang alliance as everyone thinks. He'll be angry, but he'll protect me." Yuna wiped her eyes, trying to regain some composure. "I'm going to step away from all of this. The business, the politics, the endless scheming. Maybe travel. Maybe find out who I am when I'm not trying to be someone's perfect wife or daughter." She turned to leave, but Zara's voice stopped her. "Yuna." "Yes. I hope you find happiness. Real happiness. The kind that doesn't require hurting others to obtain." Yuna smiled, and for the first time, it reached her eyes. "Thank you. I hope your family gets everything they deserve. All the years together, all the normal moments you missed. All of it." She walked back toward the stairs, her heels clicking against concrete one final time. At the entrance, she paused and looked back. "Min-jae? The documents you signed 3 years ago, the ones binding you to our marriage and the Huang partnership? I'm having them nullified. My lawyers will contact you with divorce papers within the week. You'll be free. Truly free." Then she was gone, disappearing into the smoke and chaos above. Kim cleared his throat. "Boss, we need to extract. Police will be responding soon, and we have bodies to explain." "Handle it," Min-jae said without looking away from Zara. "Make it clean. Make it look like a gang war between rival factions. Nothing that traces back to us." "And the child? Mia?" "She's at the secure facility," Zara said. "With medical personnel. We need to get to her. She must be terrified." Min-jae stood, still holding Kai. "Then let's go bring our daughter home." The drive across Seoul felt surreal. Min-jae sat in the back of the armored SUV with Kai asleep in his lap and Zara pressed against his side. Kim drove in professional silence, giving them privacy despite the confined space. Dawn was breaking over the city, soft light replacing the darkness that had consumed the night. I watched you, Min-jae said quietly. Every birthday, every school play, every doctor's appointment. I had surveillance teams monitoring you constantly. I know it's creepy and invasive, but I couldn't help myself. I needed to see them grow, even if it was from a distance. I know, Zara replied. I felt it sometimes. Like someone was watching. It used to scare me, but after a while, it became almost comforting. Like you were still there somehow, still protecting us even when you couldn't be present. I'm sorry. For all of it. For the past 3 years, for not finding another way, for choosing what I thought was safety over actually fighting for us. Zara turned to face him fully, her eyes reflecting the early morning light. You made an impossible choice under terrible circumstances. You thought you were protecting us. And maybe you were. Maybe if you'd refused 3 years ago, we'd all be dead now. I don't know. But what I do know is that you came for us tonight. When it mattered most, when we needed you, you were there. I'll always be there. From now on. No more surveillance feeds. No more watching from a distance. I want to be present for everything. First days of school, lost teeth, scraped knees, bad dreams. All of it. What about your empire? Your business? The enemies who'll keep coming. Min-jae looked down at Kai's sleeping face, then back at Zara. I'm done with that world. Tonight was my last operation. I'm liquidating everything, transferring assets to legitimate businesses and walking away. Let someone else run the underworld. I'm choosing family. Can you really walk away? Will they let you? They don't have a choice. I've built enough leverage over the years to ensure my retirement goes uncontested. Anyone who tries to challenge it will find their entire operation exposed to authorities. Mutually assured destruction. It's the only way out of this life. The SUV pulled up to the secure medical facility. They could see Mia through the window, sitting on an examination table while Dr. Han spoke softly to her. The little girl looked so small, so vulnerable, her eyes red from crying. The moment Mia saw them, she screamed. Not in fear, but in desperate relief. She jumped off the table and ran toward the door. Zara was out of the SUV instantly, catching her daughter in her arms. Mia clung to her mother with the same desperate strength Kai had shown, and Min-jae watched this reunion with a lump in his throat. Then Mia saw him. She pulled back from Zara, her small face scrunching in confusion. Daddy? She hadn't seen him in person since she was 3 years old. The surveillance feeds had kept his face familiar, but seeing him physically present was different. Hi, baby girl, Min-jae said softly. He still held the sleeping Kai, but he knelt down to Mia's level. I'm here now. I'm not going away again. Mia studied him with the seriousness only children possess when assessing whether adults are telling the truth. Then she reached out one small hand and touched his face as if confirming he was real. You came to get us, she said. Kai said you would, but I was scared you wouldn't make it in time. I'll always come for you. No matter what. No matter where. If you need me, I'll move heaven and earth to reach you. Mia looked at her sleeping brother, then back at her father. Can we go home now? All of us together. Yes, sweetheart. All of us together. They spent the next week in a different safe house, this one more home than fortress. Min-jae kept his word, systematically dismantling his criminal empire with ruthless efficiency. Businesses were sold, territories transferred, loose ends tied up with the same strategic brilliance he'd once used to build his power. Kim stayed on as head of personal security, but even he transitioned toward legitimate operations. Yuna was true to her word as well. Divorce papers arrived on the 3rd day, requiring only Min-jae's signature to dissolve a marriage that had never been real. He signed without hesitation, and that evening, he and Zara sat together on the balcony while the twins slept inside. So what now? Zara asked. Where do we go from here? Anywhere you want, Min-jae replied. America, Europe, somewhere in Asia where nobody knows our faces. We start over completely. New identities, new lives, new everything. The kids need stability. They need to feel safe. Then we give them that. We find a quiet place with good schools and normal neighbors. We become the most boring family on the block. I'll coach soccer. You'll join the PTA. We'll argue about whose turn it is to take out the garbage. Zara laughed, the sound light and genuine. You? Coaching soccer? Taking out garbage? I can't even imagine it. Neither can I. But I want to learn. I want to find out who Min-jae Park is when he's not a mafia boss. When he's just a father and hopefully, if you'll have me, a husband. Zara went very still. Are you asking what I think you're asking? Min-jae slid off the chair and onto one knee. From his pocket, he pulled out a ring, simple and elegant, nothing like the ostentatious diamond he'd given Yuna years ago. This one was understated, beautiful, perfect. Zara Williams, you've been through hell because of me. You've raised our children alone, survived kidnappings and threats, and somehow managed to remain the kindest, strongest person I've ever known. I don't deserve you. I probably never will. But I'm asking anyway. Will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life trying to be the man you and our children deserve? Tears streamed down Zara's face, but she was smiling. You're right. You don't deserve me. You've put me through absolute hell. You've broken my heart more times than I can count. Is that a no? That's a yes, you idiot. Of course it's a yes. It's always been yes, even when I hated you, even when I wanted to forget you existed. It's yes because I love you, because our children love you, because we're a family and families stick together through everything. Min-jae slipped the ring onto her finger, then pulled her close and kissed her with 3 years of longing compressed into one moment. When they finally broke apart, both were crying and laughing simultaneously. Kai's voice came from the doorway. Mommy and Daddy are kissing. They turned to find both twins watching, Mia giggling and Kai making exaggerated gagging sounds. But both children were smiling, their eyes bright with something they'd been missing for 3 years. Hope. Come here, you two, Zara said, opening her arms. The twins ran over and suddenly it was a family embrace, all 4 of them tangled together on that balcony as souls sparkled in the distance. Min-jae held them all close, his wife-to-be and his children, the family he'd fought for, the family he'd nearly lost, the family that made everything worth it. 6 months later, they stood on a beach in New Zealand, far from Seoul and its memories. The wedding was small, just the 4 of them and Kim, who'd agreed to serve as witness and continued security. Zara wore a simple white dress. Min-jae wore linen pants and a shirt, his feet bare in the sand. Kai and Mia served as ring bearers, taking their duties with adorable seriousness. As the sun set over the Pacific Ocean, they exchanged vows. Not the elaborate ceremony Min-jae had endured with Yuna, but something real and true and meaningful. I promise to be present, Min-jae said. For soccer games and school plays, for bad dreams and good days, for everything. I promise that you'll never have to face anything alone again. I promise to forgive, Zara replied. Not to forget, because our past made us who we are, but to forgive and move forward. I promise to build a future where our children never have to hide, never have to be afraid, never have to wonder if they're loved. They kissed as husband and wife while their children cheered and Kim wiped his scarred face discreetly. Later, they had cake on the beach and built sandcastles as a family. Normal things. Beautiful things. Things that 3 years ago had seemed impossible. That night, after the twins were asleep in their hotel room, Min-jae and Zara stood on their private balcony watching the ocean. Do you miss it? Zara asked. The power, the control, the empire? Not even a little bit, Min-jae replied honestly. I thought that world defined me. I thought without it, I'd be nothing. But I was wrong. This defines me. You, Mia. This family is my empire. Everything else was just noise. What about Yuna? Have you heard from her? Kim mentioned she's traveling through Europe. Learning to paint, apparently. She sent a card congratulating us on the wedding. No return address, just a note saying she's finding herself and wishes us well. I hope she finds happiness. Me too. She gave us our freedom. That's more than I ever expected. They stood in comfortable silence, listening to the waves crash against the shore. Somewhere in the hotel room, one of the twins murmured in their sleep. Min-jae smiled, recognizing Mia's particular sleep-talking pattern. Thank you, Zara said suddenly. For what? For coming back. For fighting for us. For choosing family over everything else. I know it wasn't easy. It was the easiest decision I ever made. Everything else was just noise. This is real. 3 years later, the Park family lived in a quiet suburb outside Auckland. Min-jae coached Kai's soccer team with enthusiastic incompetence that made the other parents smile. Zara had opened a small bakery that became the neighborhood favorite. Mia was thriving in school, her traumatic memories fading under the weight of happy new ones. Kai still had nightmares occasionally, but they were becoming less frequent. They were normal. Beautifully, wonderfully normal. One evening, as Min-jae helped with homework and Zara prepped dinner, a news report played on the television. Something about organized crime crackdowns in Seoul. The Huang family's empire had finally collapsed, scattered to the winds after years of infighting. Former associates were turning state's evidence. The entire structure was crumbling. That was your world once, Zara said, glancing at the screen. Feels like a lifetime ago, Min-jae replied. He looked around their modest home, at the children's artwork on the refrigerator, at the family photos covering every surface, at the beautiful chaos of normal life. This is better. This is everything. Kai looked up from his math homework. Dad, I don't understand this problem. Let me see. Min-jae moved to help his son, leaving the news report behind without a second thought. That night, after the children were asleep, Min-jae held Zara close. Do you ever regret it? Choosing me? Staying with me after everything? Every day, she said, then laughed at his expression. I'm kidding. No, Min-jae. I don't regret anything. Well, maybe I regret the kidnappings and the terror, but not choosing you. Not choosing us. We fought for this family, and it was worth every battle. I love you. I love you too. Now stop being sappy and tell me what you really think about me joining the school PTA. I think you're going to terrify all the other parents with your competence. Good. Someone needs to organize the bake sale properly. They fell asleep tangled together, safe and whole and exactly where they belonged. Outside, the New Zealand stars shone bright over their quiet neighborhood. Inside, the Park family slept peacefully, their monsters finally defeated, their future finally secure. The war was over. Love had won. And sometimes, that's exactly how the story is supposed to end. If this story touched your heart, leave a comment sharing your thoughts. Like this video and subscribe to the channel because stories like this deserve to be celebrated. Sometimes love requires sacrifice. Sometimes it requires fighting. But always, always, it's worth it in the end. Thank you for staying until the very end of this family's journey. May you all find a love worth fighting for.